In the heart of Chicago, where thousands of stories unfold daily, one drive-thru window was about to become the stage for the most extraordinary reunion you'll ever witness. Jennifer Martinez had served thousands of customers in her 3 years as manager. But nothing could have prepared her for the voice that came through her headset on that ordinary Tuesday morning. Just a small coffee, please. That's all I can afford today. The voice was older, weathered, but unmistakably familiar. Jennifer's heart stopped beating for what felt like an eternity. When the beaten-down Honda Civic crept toward her window, Jennifer's world tilted on its axis. 20 years of separation, 20 years of wondering, 20 years of pain, all condensed into this single moment. Robert Thompson kept his eyes down, counting exact change with trembling fingers. He didn't recognize the young woman behind the window. How could he? The last time he saw his daughter, she was 8 years old. She knew him instantly. He had no idea who she was. In that moment, Jennifer made a decision that would change both their lives forever, but not in the way you might expect. Instead of screaming, crying, or confronting him, Jennifer did something remarkable. She smiled, handed him the coffee, and said, "Have a blessed day, sir." Her voice didn't betray the hurricane of emotions inside. As Robert drove away, Jennifer realized this wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of the most calculated act of love she would ever perform. She had just met her father as a stranger, and she intended to keep it that way. For the next 6 months, Jennifer would serve her homeless father every single day. She would listen to his stories, learn his pain, and slowly, methodically, plan his redemption, all while he remained completely unaware of who she was. She would accidentally give him large coffees instead of small ones. She would mistakenly add extra food to his order. She would become the bright spot in his dark world, never knowing she was the daughter he thought about every day. Robert would tell this kind stranger about his biggest regret, the daughter he abandoned when she was just 8 years old. "I think about her every day," he would confess, not knowing she was recording every word. Every day after he left, Jennifer would lock herself in the employee bathroom and cry, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming complexity of loving someone who had shattered your childhood. While Robert thought he was just chatting with a friendly McDonald's worker, Jennifer was secretly researching addiction treatment centers, job opportunities, and housing options. She was building a bridge back to life for the man who had once destroyed hers. The day Robert showed her a worn photograph of a little girl, herself at 8 years old, Jennifer nearly broke character. "This is my daughter," he said with tears in his eyes. "I lost her, and I've never forgiven myself." Jennifer touched the heart necklace she had never removed, his last gift to her before he disappeared. She realized that forgiveness wasn't something you just gave. It was something you built brick by brick, day by day. As Father's Day approached, Jennifer knew the time had come. 6 months of preparation, 6 months of understanding, 6 months of love disguised as coincidence. She was ready to reveal the truth. On Father's Day morning, Jennifer put on the heart necklace visible outside her uniform. She had arranged everything: the rehabilitation center, the job interview, even the apartment. Today, she would give her father something he had never given her: a second chance prepared with love. Robert had no idea that this Father's Day would be different from all the others. He was about to discover that the stranger who had shown him kindness for 6 months was actually the daughter he had been mourning for 20 years. "I'm Jennifer," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I'm your daughter." The words hung in the air like a prayer, a confession, and a miracle all at once. What happened next defied every expectation. This isn't just a story about forgiveness. It's about strategic love, calculated redemption, and the power of preparing someone for grace instead of just demanding it. This incredible journey of hidden love and planned redemption will challenge everything you think you know about forgiveness. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe for more faith and family stories that will restore your hope in humanity. Our story begins 20 years ago in a modest home on the south side of Chicago, where 8-year-old Jennifer Martinez lived in a world that was about to crumble around her small shoulders. She believed in bedtime stories, Sunday pancakes made with extra love, and the unshakable promise that Daddy would always come home from work with dirty hands, but a clean heart. Her room was filled with stuffed animals and dreams, and she wore a small heart necklace that caught the sunlight streaming through their kitchen window every morning. Jennifer was the kind of child who still believed in magic. The magic of fairy tales, Christmas morning, and most importantly, the magic of a father's love that seemed as permanent as the stars. She would wait by the front window every evening at 5:30, watching for Robert's old pickup truck to turn the corner. Her heart necklace would catch the porch light as she pressed her face against the glass, counting the minutes until strong arms would lift her up and spin her around the living room while her mother laughed from the kitchen. Robert Thompson had been a loving father once upon a time, before addiction rewrote the story of his life in ways he never could have imagined. He worked construction during the day, building homes for other families while dreaming of the future he was creating for his own. He came home dirty but happy, his hands rough from honest work but gentle when they braided Jennifer's hair or helped her with homework at the kitchen table. Weekends were for teaching her to ride her bike, building snow forts, and reading bedtime stories in funny voices. The night Robert left began like any other night, until it didn't. Addiction had been whispering in his ear for months, promising escape from pressures he couldn't name and pain he couldn't face. When he knelt down to Jennifer's eye level for what would be the last time in 20 years, his hand shook as he made a promise that would echo through both their lives. Daddy has to go away for a little while, but I'll come back for you, baby girl. I promise I'll come back. He pressed the heart necklace into her small palm, kissed her forehead, and walked out the door. Jennifer waited by that window every day for 3 years, watching for a man who never returned while the seasons changed around her like pages turning in a book she couldn't understand. Spring turned to summer, summer faded to autumn, autumn surrendered to winter, and still she waited with the faith that only children possess. The heart necklace became her anchor to hope, even as hope itself began to fade with each passing holiday, each missed birthday, each Christmas morning when she still left cookies for a man who had become a ghost haunting her childhood dreams. Fast forward to 2023, and Chicago had transformed itself into a different city entirely, just like the people in our story who had grown and changed in ways that 20 years of living could accomplish. The skyline reached higher toward heaven. The streets buzzed with new energy and digital dreams, and somewhere in this vast urban landscape, two hearts that had once shared the same home were about to discover that destiny has a way of orchestrating reunions that seem impossible until they happen. The city that had witnessed their separation was now preparing to become the stage for their redemption. Jennifer Martinez had built herself into someone her 8-year-old self wouldn't recognize, and that was both her greatest triumph and her deepest tragedy. At 28, she stood as the youngest manager in her McDonald's district, respected by her team for her fairness and known throughout the community for her genuine kindness to every customer. Her uniform was always pressed, her smile was always ready, and her heart was always guarded behind walls she had constructed brick by brick over 20 years of learning that people leave and promises break. But success couldn't fill the father-shaped hole in her soul, no matter how many Employee of the Month awards decorated her office. Jennifer's apartment was perfectly organized, a testament to her need for control in a world that had taught her chaos could strike without warning. Her friendships were pleasant but surface level, carefully maintained at a distance that felt safe but never satisfying. She had never let anyone close enough to truly hurt her again, which also meant she had never let anyone close enough to truly heal her. Every morning, Jennifer put on that same heart necklace with the ritual precision of someone who has learned to find meaning in small ceremonies of remembrance. The silver had tarnished with age. The heart was worn smooth from being touched by nervous fingers during difficult moments, and the chain had been repaired twice when grief had made her pull too hard. It was her daily reminder of love and loss intertwined, of the way hope can become both a blessing and a burden when carried for too long. While Jennifer climbed toward stability and success, Robert had fallen into the depths of addiction and homelessness, tumbling down a staircase of poor choices until he found himself sleeping in the same Honda Civic that had once carried his family to Sunday dinners and school plays. The streets of Chicago were unforgiving to those who had lost their way, and 20 years of poor choices had stripped away everything that had once defined him: his job, his home, his dignity, and most painfully, the right to call himself anyone's father. That photograph of 8-year-old Jennifer never left Robert's wallet, even when everything else of value had been sold or stolen or lost to the chaos of life on the streets. It was creased from being handled during moments when the weight of his choices threatened to crush what was left of his spirit, faded from being stared at during sleepless nights when regret felt like a physical pain in his chest, and stained with tears of a father who had lost everything that mattered but couldn't bear to lose the last image of his daughter's innocent smile. Robert survived on a patchwork of odd jobs, collecting aluminum cans like an urban prospector, searching for dignity in the discarded remnants of other people's lives, and the occasional kindness of strangers who saw humanity in his weathered face. His addiction had cost him everything that society uses to measure a man's worth: his job, his home, his social connections, his financial security, and most devastatingly, his role as a father to the little girl who had once thought he hung the moon in the sky just for her. The McDonald's where Jennifer worked sat at the intersection of Lake Street and Ashland Avenue, a crossroads where thousands of lives intersected daily in the beautiful chaos of urban existence. It was here, in this most ordinary of places, that fate would orchestrate the most unlikely reunion between two broken hearts seeking redemption in their own ways. The golden arches that welcomed weary travelers and hungry families would soon become the cathedral where a daughter's love would meet a father's shame, and where both would discover that grace can appear in the most unexpected packages. Jennifer had transformed this McDonald's into more than just a fast food restaurant. She had created a community gathering place where her vision of treating every person with dignity became the culture that defined their daily operations. Her team respected her not just for her efficiency and management skills, but for the way she remembered their children's names, celebrated their small victories, and never asked them to work harder than she was willing to work herself. Customers remembered her genuine smile and the way she made them feel seen and valued. What made Jennifer special wasn't just her natural ability to manage people and processes, but her rare gift for seeing individuals rather than just orders, for recognizing the humanity in every face that appeared at her drive-thru window. She remembered that Mrs. Rodriguez always ordered extra pickles, that teenage Marcus was saving money for college, and that elderly Mr. Chun liked his coffee extra hot because it reminded him of his late wife's brewing. In a world that often reduced people to transactions, Jennifer made everyone feel like they mattered. Neither Jennifer nor Robert knew they were living just miles apart, their paths circling each other like planets in orbit, waiting for the moment when gravity would finally pull them together in the most unexpected way possible. Two broken hearts, one shared bloodline, and a divine appointment neither of them saw coming. The daughter had built a life of service and kindness, while the father had lost everything to addiction and shame. Yet both carried pieces of each other in ways they couldn't understand. Her green eyes were his capacity for love lived on in her heart. Tuesday morning started like any other at the Lake Street McDonald's. Jennifer arrived at 5:30 a.m., checked the overnight reports, and prepared for another day of serving Chicago's diverse community. She unlocked the doors, turned on the warming trays, and began the familiar routine that had structured her adult life for 3 years. The morning air was crisp with autumn's promise, and she had no idea this ordinary Tuesday would split her life into before and after, that the next voice she heard would carry her back 20 years in the span of a single heartbeat. At exactly 6:15 a.m., Jennifer put on her headset and opened the drive-thru window for business, settling into the rhythm that had become second nature after thousands of morning shifts. She had served every type of customer imaginable: rush commuters grabbing coffee before important meetings, exhausted night shift workers heading home, parents bribing cranky toddlers with happy meals. Her voice was trained to be warm and welcoming. Her hands moved efficiently across the register, and her heart was safely protected behind the professional smile she had perfected over years of customer service. The voice that came through her headset was hesitant, almost apologetic, weathered by years of hardship and shame. Excuse me. Could I have a small coffee? That's all I can afford today." The words carried the weight of a man who had learned to expect rejection, who counted coins carefully because dignity had become a luxury he couldn't afford. Jennifer felt her world stop spinning as recognition hit, like lightning splitting the sky. This voice belonged to her past, to bedtime stories and broken promises. 20 years of separation collapsed into a single heartbeat that seemed to echo through her entire body. The voice was older, broken by life's cruelty and his own choices, but unmistakably her father's. Jennifer's hands trembled as she processed the impossible reality unfolding through her headset. Her past had just collided with her present in the most unexpected way, and she had seconds to decide how to handle the moment that would define the rest of both their lives. Every emotion she had buried was now fighting to surface. As the Honda Civic crept toward her window, Jennifer's mind raced through 20 years of anger, abandonment, and unanswered questions that had shaped her into the woman she had become. Every emotion she had carefully contained was now threatening to spill over. The rage of an 8-year-old who had waited by the window, the grief of a teenager who had stopped believing in fairy tale endings, the protective walls of an adult who had learned that loving someone meant risking everything. This was her moment of truth, and she had seconds to choose between revenge and redemption. Robert Thompson appeared at her window, aged beyond his 52 years by choices that had carved deep lines into his weathered face. His hands shook as he counted exact change, 75 cents for a small coffee, while keeping his eyes down in the shame-filled posture of someone who had learned to expect judgment from strangers. He wore a faded blue cap that had seen better decades, and his clothes carried the story of a man who had been forgotten by the world. He had no idea that the woman behind the window was the little girl he thought about every single day. Jennifer studied every line on his weathered face, every gray hair in his unkempt beard, searching for traces of the father who had once read her bedtime stories and taught her to ride her bike. This was her father, broken, homeless, and completely unaware that his abandoned daughter was now serving him coffee in the cosmic joke that life had become. The irony was almost too painful to bear, yet somewhere in her heart, she felt a strange sense of completion, as if a missing piece of her story had finally clicked into place. For 30 seconds that felt like 30 years, they occupied the same space, father and daughter, stranger and stranger, past and present colliding in a drive-thru window in Chicago. Robert didn't recognize the little girl he had left behind, now grown into a woman who carried his green eyes and his capacity for love despite everything he had done. Jennifer saw the broken man her father had become, and in that moment, she made a choice that would define both their futures in ways neither could have imagined. In that pivotal moment, Jennifer made a choice that would define the next 6 months of both their lives. Instead of revealing herself, instead of unleashing 20 years of pain and anger, instead of demanding explanations he couldn't give, she decided to become exactly what he needed, a stranger who cared. She would love him as the father he had failed to be, while learning about the man he had become. She would give him what he had never given her, a chance to be worthy of forgiveness before asking for it. "Here's your coffee, sir," Jennifer said, her voice steady despite the hurricane raging inside her chest. She handed him the cup with the same gentle smile she gave every customer, but this smile carried the weight of 20 years of forgiveness he didn't even know he needed. Her hands didn't shake. Her voice didn't betray the earth-shattering recognition happening inside her heart. She had just made the most important decision of her life, to love a stranger who was her father, and to see if redemption was possible for both of them. As Robert drove away, Jennifer realized she had just witnessed the beginning of something extraordinary that she couldn't yet name. This wasn't a chance encounter. It was an opportunity to love someone who had hurt her without them knowing they were being loved. It was grace in its purest form, mercy disguised as customer service, and the chance to build a bridge back to each other one coffee at a time. She watched his taillights disappear around the corner and touched the heart necklace that had connected them across 20 years of separation. That night, Jennifer held her heart necklace and made a promise to herself that would change everything. She would not waste this divine appointment on anger or revenge or the satisfaction of watching him suffer for what he had done to her childhood. She would use it to understand the man who had shaped her life through his absence, to learn who Robert Thompson had become in the 20 years since he walked out their front door. She would love him back to life, one secret kindness at a time. The next morning, Robert returned, and the morning after that. Soon, it became clear that Jennifer's simple kindness had created something precious in his dark world, a daily dose of human dignity served with his morning coffee. He began to arrive at the same time each day, and Jennifer found herself watching the clock, preparing for the most complex customer interaction of her career. She was serving coffee to her father while pretending to be a stranger, and somehow it felt like the most honest thing she had ever done. Jennifer began her secret mission of love with the precision of someone who understood that small kindnesses could change a life. When he ordered small coffee, she mistakenly gave him large. When he asked for nothing else, she accidentally added hash browns or a breakfast sandwich, always with an apologetic smile about the kitchen's error. Every mistake was actually mercy disguised as human error, grace served on McDonald's tray, love hidden in plain sight where he couldn't reject it because he didn't know what it really was. Robert began to look forward to these moments of unexpected kindness that broke through the gray monotony of survival on Chicago's streets. The woman at the drive-thru never made him feel ashamed of counting exact change or apologizing for smelling like the streets he called home. She never looked at him with pity or disgust or the careful politeness that people use to avoid really seeing him. She simply treated him like a human being worthy of respect, and it had been so long since anyone had given him that gift. Weeks passed, and their brief daily encounters began to feel like friendship, though only one of them knew the true nature of their connection. Robert started arriving earlier, staying a minute longer, sharing small pieces of his story with this kind stranger who listened without judgment. Jennifer found herself genuinely looking forward to seeing him, despite the complex emotions his presence stirred in her heart. She was falling in love with the man her father had become, while still nursing wounds from the father he had been. Slowly, carefully, Robert began to share pieces of his broken story with this kind stranger who had become the bright spot in his dark world. He spoke about his greatest regret, a daughter he had abandoned when she was just 8 years old, a little girl with pigtails and a gap-toothed smile who had trusted him completely. "I think about her every day," he confessed to the woman behind the window, not knowing she was memorizing every word, recording every story, learning about the father she had lost and the man he had become. Jennifer listened with her heart breaking and healing simultaneously, each story Robert shared giving her new insight into the man who had left her and the reasons that had driven him away. Every confession he made to this kind stranger was a gift he didn't know he was giving, the gift of understanding, the pieces of a puzzle she had been trying to solve for 20 years. She began recording their conversations, not for evidence or revenge, but for understanding. She needed to know who he had become before she could forgive who he had been. Each evening after their encounter, Jennifer would sit alone in the empty restaurant, processing the day's revelations like a scholar studying ancient texts that held the secrets to her own origin story. She was falling in love with the broken man her father had become, while still nursing wounds from the father he had been. It was the most beautiful and painful contradiction of her life, learning to love the person who had caused her the deepest hurt, one conversation at a time, one secret kindness at a time, one day at a time. 3 months into their daily encounters, Robert had become more than just a customer. He had become Jennifer's secret project, her daily reminder that redemption was possible even for the most broken hearts. He arrived each morning at exactly 7:15, no longer nervous or apologetic, but with the quiet dignity of someone who had found a safe harbor in an unsafe world. Their conversations had grown deeper, more personal, and Jennifer found herself looking forward to these moments of connection that were both healing and heartbreaking. On a particularly difficult Tuesday morning, when Robert's eyes looked more tired than usual and his hands shook with something deeper than caffeine withdrawal, he did something that nearly shattered Jennifer's carefully maintained composure. He pulled out his wallet and showed her a worn, faded photograph of a little girl with pigtails and a gap-toothed smile. Herself at 8 years old. "This is my daughter," he said with tears threatening to spill down his weathered cheeks, his voice carrying 20 years of regret. Jennifer stared at her own childhood face looking back at her from the photograph that had clearly been handled thousands of times, its edges worn soft from being carried in a homeless man's wallet through 20 years of addiction and street life. She fought every instinct to scream, to cry, to reach through that window and shake him until he recognized her. Instead, she managed to whisper, "She's beautiful." "What's her name?" Already knowing the answer, but needing to hear him say it, needing to know if he still remembered her name after all these years. "Jennifer," Robert said, his voice breaking on the syllables of his daughter's name, like it was a prayer he wasn't worthy to speak. Her name was Jennifer Martinez. She'd be about your age now, maybe a little older. I lost her when she was 8 years old, and I've never forgiven myself. Not for a single day. He tucked the photograph back into his wallet with careful reverence, unaware he was speaking to the very person whose forgiveness he had been seeking for 2 decades. Jennifer's hand instinctively moved to the heart necklace hidden beneath her uniform shirt, the last gift he had given her before disappearing from her life. She wanted to rip it out and show him, to make him understand that his daughter was right here, that she had grown up strong despite his absence. But something held her back. She wasn't ready to reveal herself yet. She needed to understand more about the man he had become, needed to know if his regret was real. That night, Jennifer sat at her kitchen table with her laptop open, researching addiction treatment centers, job training programs, and housing assistance with focused intensity. This wasn't about revenge. This was about love. Strategic love. Calculated compassion. She was going to prepare a path back to life for the man who had destroyed hers, and she was going to do it without him knowing until he was ready. She was going to give him what he had never given her, a second chance prepared with love. Over the following weeks, Robert began sharing more intimate details about his past with this kind stranger who had become his confessor. He told her about the night he left, about the promises he broke, about the addiction that had stolen his life piece by piece. "I was supposed to be her hero," he said one afternoon, his voice thick with shame. "Instead, I became the villain in her story. She probably hates me now, if she even remembers me at all." Jennifer fought back tears as she listened to her father's confession, wanting to tell him that his daughter had never stopped loving him, that she had waited by the window for 3 years, that she still wore his necklace every single day. But she also needed him to understand the full weight of what he had done, needed him to feel the depth of his choices before she offered him absolution. "Maybe she's waiting for you to become the father she always needed," Jennifer said carefully. Jennifer spent her evenings making phone calls to rehabilitation centers, speaking with counselors, and carefully arranging a support system that Robert didn't know existed yet. She interviewed therapists, researched job placement programs, and even found a small apartment that would accept someone with his background. Every detail was planned with precision. She understood that sustainable change required more than good intentions. It required infrastructure, support, and hope that felt real. One morning, Robert surprised Jennifer by mentioning that he had been thinking about getting clean again, about trying to rebuild his life even though he had failed so many times before. "There's this woman at the McDonald's drive-thru," he told a fellow homeless friend. "She treats me like I'm worth something. For the first time in 20 years, I feel like maybe I could be the kind of man my daughter could be proud of, even if I never see her again." Jennifer overheard that conversation from inside the restaurant, and it broke something open in her chest that had been locked away for 2 decades. Her father was changing because of her kindness, becoming the man she had always needed him to be, not because he knew who she was, but because someone had finally shown him that he was worthy of love. This was bigger than revenge or even forgiveness. This was resurrection. She was watching her father come back to life. As Father's Day approached on the calendar hanging in Jennifer's kitchen, she knew the time for revelation was coming. 6 months of secret love, 6 months of careful preparation, 6 months of building a bridge strong enough to hold the weight of 20 years of separation. She had arranged everything. The rehabilitation center had a bed waiting, the job training program had accepted his application, and the apartment was ready. Now, she needed to find the courage to step out from behind her disguise. Jennifer stood in front of her bathroom mirror, rehearsing the words she would say when she finally revealed the truth. "I'm Jennifer. I'm your daughter." The words felt strange in her mouth after 6 months of pretending to be a stranger. She practiced different ways of saying it, different tones, different approaches, but nothing felt adequate for the moment that would change both their lives forever. How do you tell someone that the stranger who saved them is actually the child they abandoned? Unknown to Jennifer, Robert had been taking his own steps toward redemption, inspired by the kindness of the woman at McDonald's who treated him like a human being worth saving. He had visited a community center, inquired about rehabilitation programs, and even filled out applications for job training. "I want to be someone my daughter could be proud of," he told the intake counselor. "I know I can't undo the past, but maybe I can build a future that honors the father I should have been." When Jennifer accidentally discovered that Robert had already begun the process of seeking help, her heart nearly burst with pride and hope and a kind of love she had never experienced before. This wasn't just about her kindness changing him. He was choosing to change himself, motivated by the belief that he could become worthy of a daughter's love. He was becoming the father she had always needed, not because she demanded it, but because someone had shown him he was capable of being that man. The day before Father's Day arrived with a weight that felt different from all the days that had come before. Jennifer arrived at work knowing that tomorrow would be the day. She stepped out from behind her disguise and revealed the truth that had been hiding in plain sight for 6 months. She had prepared everything: the words, the support system, the path forward, but she hadn't prepared her heart for the magnitude of what she was about to do. She was about to give her father the greatest gift anyone could receive. That afternoon, Robert arrived at the drive-thru with something Jennifer had never seen before: a small, handmade wooden heart that he had carved himself. "I wanted to give this to the kind lady who works here," he told the teenager at the register, his weathered hands trembling slightly. "She's been so good to me these past months, treating me like family when I'm nobody to her. Tomorrow's Father's Day, and maybe this woman has a father who would be proud to know his daughter is an angel." Jennifer accepted the small wooden heart with hands that shook more than his had, staring at the rough but loving craftsmanship of a man who had spent hours carving something beautiful with borrowed tools. The heart was imperfect, but sincere, just like the love that had created it, just like the love she had been secretly giving him for 6 months. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely holding together. "This means more to me than you'll ever know." Robert sat in his car in the McDonald's parking lot as the sun set on what he believed might be his last day before attempting to get clean again. He had made up his mind to enter rehabilitation the following week, inspired by months of kindness from a stranger who had treated him like he was worth saving. He stared at the restaurant where his guardian angel worked, not knowing that inside, his daughter was preparing to reveal that angels sometimes were the faces of the children we think we've lost forever. That night, Jennifer sat alone in the empty McDonald's, holding Robert's handmade wooden heart in one hand and her own heart necklace in the other. Two symbols of love separated by 20 years, but united by the unbreakable bond between father and daughter. Tomorrow was Father's Day, and she was going to give her father the most precious gift she could offer: the revelation that his daughter had never stopped loving him, that she had been right here all along, and that redemption was already prepared and waiting for him. Father's Day morning dawned clear and bright, as if heaven itself was preparing to witness the miracle that was about to unfold in a Chicago McDonald's drive-thru. Jennifer arrived 2 hours early, wearing her heart necklace outside her uniform for the first time in 6 months. Today, she would step out from behind her mask of kindness and reveal herself as the daughter who had been loving him in secret, preparing his redemption while he thought he was just receiving coffee from a stranger who cared. Jennifer stood behind the drive-thru counter, holding both hearts, the carved wooden one he had given her and the silver one he had given her 20 years ago. Her hands trembled not with nervousness, but with the weight of a moment she had been preparing for her entire adult life. In a few minutes, Robert would pull up to her window for what he thought was just another Tuesday morning coffee, but she was about to give him back his daughter and his future in the same breath. Robert drove toward the McDonald's with a strange sense of peace he hadn't felt in decades. He had decided that today would be his last visit before checking into rehabilitation next week. The kind woman at the drive-thru had inspired him to believe he could change, and he wanted to thank her one more time before disappearing from her life to become the man his daughter deserved, even if she never knew it. He had no idea that his daughter was about to reveal herself. As Robert's car pulled up to her window, Jennifer touched her heart necklace one final time as a stranger and prepared to reveal herself as his daughter. She had rehearsed this moment for weeks, but nothing could have prepared her for the actual weight of it. "Good morning," she said with the same gentle smile she had given him for 6 months, but this time her voice carried the tremor of someone about to change 2 lives forever. "I have something to tell you." Robert looked up from counting his exact change, something in her voice making him actually meet her eyes for the first time in 6 months of encounters. He had always kept his gaze down, shame preventing him from looking directly at the woman who had shown him such kindness. But today, something was different. Her voice held a weight he couldn't identify, and when their green eyes met, his tired and worn, hers bright with unshed tears, a flicker of recognition began to dawn. "Sir," Jennifer said, her voice steady despite her racing heart, "before I give you your coffee today, I need to tell you something that's going to change everything." She held up the wooden heart he had carved for her, letting him see it clearly. "This is the most beautiful gift anyone has ever given me, because it came from a father's love, even though you didn't know you were giving it to your daughter." The words hung in the air between them like a bridge about to be crossed. Robert's face went through a series of emotions that 20 years of separation had never allowed him to express. Confusion gave way to recognition. Recognition gave way to disbelief, and disbelief gave way to a hope so fragile he was afraid to breathe. What did you say?" he whispered, his voice barely audible above the morning traffic. His hands began to shake, not from withdrawal or shame this time, but from the possibility that the impossible was happening right in front of him. Jennifer lifted the heart necklace from beneath her uniform. Holding it up with a morning light, caught the worn silver surface that had been touched by nervous fingers for 20 years. "You gave this to me on my 8th birthday," she said, her voice growing stronger with each word. "You told me that as long as I wore it, I would always have your love with me, even when you couldn't be there. I never took it off, Daddy. Not once in 20 years. I've been waiting for you to come home." Robert stared at the necklace that had lived in his memory for 2 decades. The last gift he had given his daughter before his addiction stole his life and broke his family. The sight of it around the neck of this kind woman who had been feeding him and caring for him and listening to his stories hit him like a physical blow. "Jennifer," he whispered, his voice breaking on her name. "My baby girl? Is it really you?" His weathered hands reached toward the window, as if trying to touch a dream he was afraid would disappear. "Yes, Daddy," Jennifer said through tears that she had been holding back for 6 months of secret love and 20 years of missing him. "It's me. It's Jennifer. I'm your daughter, and I've been taking care of you every day for 6 months because I love you. Not because you deserved it, not because you earned it, but because you're my father, and some loves are stronger than the mistakes that try to break them." Her voice was steady now, filled with a certainty that surprised even her. Robert stumbled out of his car, his legs barely supporting him as the magnitude of what was happening crashed over him like a wave. His daughter, his beautiful, grown-up daughter, had been caring for him all this time. She had seen him at his lowest point and chosen love instead of revenge. He walked toward the McDonald's entrance with tears streaming down his face, each step carrying him closer to a reunion 20 years in the making. Jennifer abandoned her post for the first time in 3 years, walking away from the drive-thru window and toward the front entrance where her father was approaching. Her manager looked confused, Her co-workers stopped what they were doing, but Jennifer didn't care about anything except reaching the man who had shaped her life through his absence and was about to reshape it through his presence. 20 years of separation were about to end in a McDonald's lobby in Chicago. When the automatic doors opened and Robert saw his daughter standing there, not behind a drive-thru window, but right in front of him, real and whole and beautiful, his knees gave out. Jennifer caught him as he collapsed, wrapping her arms around the father she had lost as a child and found again as an adult. "I'm sorry," he sobbed into her shoulder. "I'm so sorry, baby girl. I failed you. I broke every promise I ever made." But Jennifer was already shaking her head, already beginning the work of healing that she had been preparing for months. "You didn't fail me, Daddy," Jennifer whispered as she held her father for the first time since she was 8 years old. "You brought me exactly what I needed, the chance to love someone unconditionally, the way you should have been loved all along. I forgive you, not because you asked for it, but because forgiveness was always waiting here for you to come home and claim it." Around them, McDonald's customers and employees watched in stunned silence as a miracle unfolded over hash browns and coffee. Within minutes, phones were out, and the moment was being shared across social media platforms as witnesses tried to capture the miracle they were seeing. Hashtag McDonald's Miracle began trending as people shared videos of a homeless man and a McDonald's manager embracing and crying in a lobby that had suddenly become sacred ground. The story of secret love and prepared forgiveness began spreading across the internet, touching hearts around the world who needed to believe that redemption was possible. Through tears and laughter, Jennifer explained everything: the 6 months of secret care, the rehabilitation center that was waiting for him, the job training program she had enrolled him in, the apartment she had found and furnished. "I didn't just forgive you," she said, spreading the papers across a McDonald's table. "I prepared your second chance. I learned who you had become, and then I built a bridge to who you could be. All you have to do is walk across it." Robert stared at the documents that represented more love and preparation than he had ever received in his entire life. His daughter hadn't just waited for him to get better. She had actively created the conditions for his success. "Why?" he whispered. "Why would you do this for me after everything I put you through?" Jennifer smiled and touched her heart necklace. "Because this is what love does. It doesn't just hope for change. It prepares the way for change to happen." Father and daughter spent the next hour planning Robert's new life together. Jennifer had thought of everything: transportation to the rehabilitation center, a contact person who would check on him, even a job at a construction company that specialized in hiring people in recovery. "You're going to build homes again, Daddy," she said, her voice full of hope. "But this time, you're going to build a home for us too. A home where promises are kept and love doesn't have conditions." As the lunch rush began around them, Jennifer and Robert remained at their table, surrounded by the evidence of a daughter's strategic love and a father's second chance. Other customers gave them space, but couldn't help stealing glances at the pair who had turned an ordinary McDonald's into the site of an extraordinary redemption. The story was already going viral, but for Jennifer and Robert, the only thing that mattered was the next 20 years they would build together. 1 week later, Jennifer drove her father to Midwest Recovery Center, the rehabilitation facility she had carefully researched and selected during those months of secret preparation. Robert carried a small suitcase containing everything he owned, but more importantly, he carried something he hadn't possessed in 20 years: hope that felt real rather than desperate. His daughter had not only forgiven him, but had built a foundation for his recovery that felt solid enough to stand on. The intake process was overwhelming for Robert, who hadn't navigated institutional systems in years. But Jennifer was there to translate forms and advocate for his needs. "This is different from before," she told the counselor. "He's not just trying to get clean. He's trying to build a life worth living. He has someone waiting for him on the other side." The counselor looked between father and daughter and made a note in Robert's file: "Strong family support system. Excellent prognosis for long-term recovery." In his first group therapy session, Robert struggled to find words for the miracle that had brought him here. "My daughter found me," he said finally, his voice thick with emotion. "I thought I'd lost her forever, but she never lost me. She saved my life without me knowing it, and now I have to become worthy of that salvation. The other members of the group listened with the recognition of people who understood both desperation and the power of unexpected grace. Jennifer attended every family therapy session, working through 20 years of abandonment and forgiveness with professional guidance. "I'm not angry anymore," she told the therapist while Robert listened with tears in his eyes. "I grieved the father I lost when I was 8, but I'm excited about the father I'm gaining now. We both get to start over, and that's a gift not everyone receives." The therapist noted that Jennifer's capacity for forgiveness was extraordinary but healthy. During Robert's first month in rehabilitation, Jennifer returned to her routine at McDonald's, but everything felt different. Customers who had heard about their story would ask for updates, and Jennifer found herself becoming an unexpected spokesperson for the power of unconditional love. She started each day by sending her father a text message. "Good morning, Daddy. I love you. You're worth fighting for." It was the first time in 20 years that Robert woke up knowing someone believed in him. At his 30-day milestone, Robert looked like a different person. The gray pallor had left his skin, his hands had stopped shaking, and most importantly, he carried himself with the dignity of someone who remembered he was worth saving. The job training program Jennifer had enrolled him in was teaching him updated construction techniques. And for the first time in decades, he dared to imagine a future where he could support himself and contribute to his daughter's life, rather than just accepting her charity. The construction company Jennifer had contacted specialized in giving second chances to people in recovery. The supervisor, a man who had been sober for 15 years himself, looked at Robert's work history and rehabilitation progress. "Your daughter called me 6 months ago," he said with a smile. "She told me she had a father who was going to need a job and asked if I would consider hiring him when he was ready. That's some kind of love, friend. When can you start?" 3 months after entering rehabilitation, Robert graduated from the program with Jennifer in the front row, beaming with pride. He had lost 40 pounds of homeless weight and gained something more valuable, self-respect. In his graduation speech, he thanked his daughter who had loved me back to life when I thought I was already dead. The other graduates' families wiped their eyes as they witnessed what redemption looked like when it was prepared with strategic love rather than demanded through guilt. Jennifer helped her father move into the furnished apartment she had secured during his rehabilitation. It was small but clean, with a window that faced east so he could watch the sunrise each morning. "I picked this place because it's exactly halfway between my apartment and the McDonald's," she said as they arranged his few belongings. "You're close enough to be part of my life, but far enough away to build your own. We both need space to grow into this new relationship." Robert's first day at Thompson & Sons Construction, a coincidence that felt like destiny, was terrifying and exhilarating. His hands remembered the tools, his back remembered the work, but his heart had to learn how to hope again. His supervisor paired him with Miguel, a veteran employee who was also in recovery. "The first month is the hardest," Miguel told him. "But your daughter already did the hardest part. She gave you something to build toward instead of just something to recover from." Jennifer's office at McDonald's now displayed photos of her and Robert, pictures from his graduation, from moving day, from their first dinner together as adults. Her co-workers had initially been skeptical about her father's story, but seeing their obvious love and his commitment to sobriety had converted the doubters. "She saved him," her assistant manager said to new employees. But really, they saved each other. She taught all of us what love looks like when it chooses action over emotion. Their first Sunday dinner together was awkward and beautiful, filled with careful conversation and careful hope. Robert insisted on cooking, his hands shaking slightly as he prepared pancakes, Jennifer's childhood favorite that he had remembered for 20 years. "I used to make these for you every Sunday morning," he said, tears in his eyes. "I know I can't make up for all the Sunday mornings I missed, but maybe we can start new traditions." Jennifer smiled and squeezed his hand. "These are perfect, Daddy." 3 months into Robert's sobriety, they received their first invitation to speak at a local community center about their story. Jennifer was nervous, but Robert insisted they had a responsibility to share what they had learned. People need to know that forgiveness isn't just about letting go of anger, he said as they prepared their presentation. Sometimes forgiveness means preparing a path for someone to walk back into your life. Your daughter didn't just forgive me, she built me a bridge home. Their first speaking engagement was to a group of families affected by addiction. Jennifer spoke about the importance of boundaries and self-care while loving someone with addiction. Robert spoke about the difference between earning forgiveness and receiving prepared grace. My daughter could have used our reunion for revenge, he told the audience. Instead, she used it for restoration. She showed me that love isn't just an emotion. It's a strategy for healing that requires patience, planning, and hope. 6 months into his sobriety, Robert had become a valued member of the construction crew and an unofficial mentor to other workers in recovery. He found purpose in sharing his experience and hope with men who reminded him of his former self. Recovery isn't just about stopping the destructive behavior, he told a new hire who was struggling. It's about building something beautiful in the place where the destruction used to live. I'm helping build homes for other families now because my daughter helped me build a home for my soul. To help Robert supplement his construction income and to give them more time together, Jennifer arranged for him to work part-time at McDonald's doing maintenance work. It felt surreal to have her father mopping the floors where she had once served him coffee in secret, but it also felt like the completion of a circle. Now I get to take care of the place where my daughter took care of me, Robert said, cleaning the drive-thru window with extra attention. This place is sacred ground in our family. 1 year after their miraculous reunion, Jennifer and Robert began each workday together at 5:30 a.m., sharing coffee and preparing for another day of serving their community. The drive-thru window that had once hidden their relationship now showcased it, as customers often commented on the obvious love between the manager and her maintenance worker. You can see their family, regular customers would say. There's something special about the way they look at each other. Their morning coffee ritual had become sacred, not because it was coffee, but because it represented 20 years of missed mornings finally restored. Robert would arrive first and have Jennifer's coffee ready exactly the way she liked it, a small daily gift that said, "I'm here, I'm sober, I'm your father." Their story had gained national attention when the viral video reached major news outlets. "What you did was extraordinary," the reporter said to Jennifer. "You could have chosen revenge." Jennifer smiled, touching her heart necklace. "Revenge would have given me one moment of satisfaction. Love gave me my father back forever." They now spoke regularly at rehabilitation centers, sharing their story with families torn apart by addiction. Recovery isn't just about the addict, Jennifer told audiences. It's about everyone learning new ways to love that create healing instead of enabling. "I had to love my father strategically, not emotionally." Robert had found his calling building affordable housing for families in need. "Every house I build now is an apology to my daughter," he told his coworkers. "I can't give her back her childhood, but I can help other families stay together." His supervisor noted that Robert worked with unusual dedication and care. Sunday dinners had become their tradition, a weekly celebration of the family they had rebuilt from nothing. Robert would cook while Jennifer set the table, both marveling at the ordinary miracle of being together. "I used to dream about this," Robert said, stirring pasta sauce. "I just never believed I deserved it." Regular customers now brought their children to meet Jennifer and Robert, using their story to teach lessons about forgiveness and second chances. "See that lady and her daddy?" parents would say. "They show us that love is stronger than mistakes." Jennifer and Robert had become living proof that broken families could heal. They spent evenings filling in 20 years of separation, Jennifer showing Robert photo albums of graduations he had missed, achievements he hadn't celebrated. "I saved everything," she admitted. "Some part of me always believed you'd come back and want to see what you missed." Robert wept over every milestone he had absent for. Their memoir, Second Chances, a father and daughter's journey back to each other, had become a bestseller. At book signings, people shared their own stories of broken families and lost hope. "You show us it's possible," readers told them. "If you too can heal from this, maybe we can heal too." Today, Jennifer and Robert work together, live near each other, and speak together about the power of prepared forgiveness. Their story proves that love isn't just an emotion. It's a choice we make every day to build bridges instead of walls. What did you think of their incredible journey? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring faith and family stories.